Mr. Uhlmann, you ready? Okay. Question with respect to experience with environmental crimes. You certainly have some of that. As I mentioned earlier in my introduction, you have, I think, 17 years. 17 years?
17 years, yes, sir.
Years of experience as a prosecutor within the Department of Justice, including 7 years as chief of the Environmental Crimes Section, where you oversaw a number of important prosecutions against individuals and against organizations that violated the laws that protect our nation's environment and public health. My question is, what, in your extensive experience in prosecuting environmental crimes, did you learn that can help EPA's Office of Enforcement in both more effectively identifying and addressing violations of environmental protection laws, as well as preventing violations before they occur?
Well, thank you so much for the question, Senator. And you know, I think I'd start where my colleague, Professor Waterhouse, was, because you know, I worked on cases throughout the United States, and I think the first and most important lesson I learned is just how much pollution affects our communities and harms American families. I mentioned in my opening statement a case I prosecuted in West Memphis, which was the first environmental justice criminal trial in the United States. And in that case, my witnesses, our best witnesses really, were the neighbors who lived across the street from this hazardous waste site for more than a decade. And they testified that they couldn't go out on their porches at night because the fumes were so bad. I also mentioned the case I prosecuted in Idaho, where workers for years were subject to just horrendous working conditions at a fertilizer manufacturer until one day he sent his workers into a tank that had contained cyanide waste, and a 20-year-old man in his first job out of high school collapsed inside that tank, suffered severe and permanent brain damage, and when the owner of the facility was asked if there was anything, what was in the tank, he said nothing that's harmful. And when he was asked if there was cyanide in the tank, he lied and said, no possibility there was cyanide, even though he was the person who put the cyanide in the tank. And I mention these cases because, you know, I could go on, but I know we have limits on our time. You know, pollution has real effects on our communities, real effects on families, real effects on people's lives. And I think that firsthand knowledge for me is probably the most important thing I learned. But I'll just mention quickly two other things. I also had the opportunity over those many years to work with the extraordinary career staff at EPA. The inspectors who, as you point out, very important to ensuring compliance. I mean, they were witnesses in my trials because they often were the ones who first saw the violations at facilities. The enforcement attorneys who work on the civil cases, they were our partners because not every case is criminal. And in fact, the majority of cases aren't criminal. The majority of cases are civil or administrative. And so I just developed a very deep appreciation for the career staff at EPA. If confirmed, I'd be honored to work alongside them. And then the last thing I'd say is I'm not new to this area. I'm not sure how it got to be possible that I have 30 years of experience working on anything, but I would bring to the agency experience that no prior assistant administrators had, even though I have deep respect for my predecessors, all of whom are dedicated public servants. And it just would give me the ability to hit the ground running and help the agency enforce the laws passed by Congress to protect the environment and deliver on the promise of clean air and clean water for all Americans.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Howe, you ready for another question? Good.